I'd like to continue with the next session, talking a little bit about the business aspect of Bitcoin and iGaming. And we have a great, large panel sitting here right next to me. Short introduction, just very quick. So first of all, Ivan, if you can raise your hand. There's Ivan. Ivan's company, Softswiss, is sponsor of this session. And Ivan is the founder of it. Jiten Melwani, sitting right next to him, is an MIT-trained software engineer and CEO of Bitgame Labs. We have Brock Pierce, I think the first person I met in my life who's not only a multiple entrepreneur, but also a child actor. You go online and look at the impressive movies he's worked at. 15-time entrepreneur and investor in, amongst others, Gocoin and Bitcoin in China. Next to him, sitting here, is Esteban van Goor, tax lawyer working for International Indirect Tax Department of Pricewaterhouse in the Netherlands. Somebody who's probably the most famous, sitting here in the middle, is Erik Voorhees, amongst the top recognized serial Bitcoin entrepreneurs, mainly known for being the founder of SatoshiDICE. And then we have Gabriel Sukenik, who is the co-founder of Coinapult, who are also supporting this session here today. So we'd like to talk about the business aspect of this. There's a lot of angles. We've seen the regulatory constraints. We've seen all the possibilities and the definitions of the technology that Bitcoin offers us, as John described before. Just for clarification / education, I would like to ask Erik to explain to us one thing, because provably fair is a big buzzword in the Bitcoin community and of course in the iGaming community. And I think it's essential to a lot of stuff that's happening in the Bitcoin iGaming space. So could you, provably fair with a V, could you just have a minute explain that to us, Erik?
Yep. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. So in general, for a number of reasons, I'm going to refer to clones of SatoshiDICE as opposed to SatoshiDICE itself. So when I'm talking about clones of SatoshiDICE, which are the same thing, but other people made them. Provable fairness is something that everyone in the casino industry will absolutely know within a year or two. Yeah. And it's amazing that so few people have heard about it today. How many of you have gone into a casino, whether it's online or in a land-based casino, and you put money in, and you feel like you're just losing all the time, and that the machine must be rigged, right? Like, who's ever felt that?
I always win.
There is no need to feel that way. And one of the ways that some of these early Bitcoin casinos got popular was by something called provable fairness. And this, what this is a way to mathematically prove that the odds and the bet and the roll are all fair. So this means that the odds of winning are published up front, and you can mathematically prove that the casino didn't cheat and that the player can't cheat the casino. So on both sides, it's fair, and it means that you don't need to trust the company, and the company doesn't need to trust the player. And this is obviously important in Bitcoin world because it's a private payment system. You don't necessarily know who the people are who are bidding. So this is something that kind of grew out of the Bitcoin world, and I imagine in a couple of years every casino is going to have to do it, because once the general public starts realizing that some casinos offer provable fairness and others don't, who do you think they're going to go to? So does that explain it?
Excellent. Since we are talking slightly on the operator side of it, so in terms of business opportunity as an operator, so people who are here in the forefront, I guess, of this are you, Erik, and Jiten, and to some extent Ivan. Where do you think the biggest opportunity has been so far, and how do you see developing this in the next months? I mean, let's not even go further than you was.
Can you hear me? I think probably first is good for players and operators, so this is absolutely must be. And also the payment in Bitcoin. So I mean, the operator don't have any more to work with banks, with payment processing, to share their commissions, and everything is instantly. And very important thing that the operator control their funds, their money. So the player make cash in, and the operator get this money immediately. So basically, for all operators, it's a very good position. I mean, you don't have to wait, you don't have to share, you have it already. So this is very, very important in my opinion for the operators.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll add to that. A lot of people talk about Bitcoin as a currency, and it goes up and down, and it's crazy and weird, and why should we have money that is, outside of government control and all that? But forget all that weird stuff for a second, and just realize that Bitcoin can be used as a payment system to move value from any two people anywhere on Earth instantly. So a player sending money to a casino, playing, and then receiving the same money or his winnings back in the same play session. Compare that to every other way that people use online casinos today, where they take days at least to send the money in sometimes, and weeks or months to get money back out, or never in the case of Black Friday when all the poker sites went down. All that stuff has been eliminated with Bitcoin technology. So the ability to send money instantly anywhere is absolutely relevant for this industry, and I think hopefully people will start paying attention to it.
Yeah, and one other major aspect that I think gets overlooked is most of the world does not have a bank account. So you've already lost most of your potential clients without even blinking an eye. And Bitcoin obviously completely changes that ball game. And not only that, so you've now opened up, rather than 50% of the potential market, now you have 100% of the potential market. And you can also do denominations that were totally impossible under any other payment system. So if somebody wants to gamble a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a penny, go ahead. I don't know what other payment system you could potentially do that. So I think there's a whole new platform of micro gaming and mobile gaming that can start developing off of Bitcoin as well.
Jiten, you want to add that? Sorry.
I think one important thing the guys haven't mentioned yet is every operator in this industry has had issues with fraud and chargeback, and I'm sure every operator can put a very real numerical value in what they've lost in chargebacks, and Bitcoin brings that number down to exactly 0.
Exactly. So Brock, you being very experienced in the gaming industry, and just actually found out that you're the one who was very involved in Casual Connected Amsterdam next week. So, from your investment perspective, how do you see these things developing?
Well, I think in the case of the iGaming industry, historically, Bitcoin is a payment system, and it has the attributes we've heard here: no fraud, no chargebacks, lower fees. It provides access to the unbanked. A variety of reasons why it's very interesting there. Historically, the majority of the Bitcoin transactions had been around gaming, and a lot of it lately has been in the sale of mining equipment. I think the iGaming sector has the greatest potential for velocity and volume of transactions utilizing Bitcoin here over the course of the next year or two. I could see billions of dollars being processed on behalf of regulated sort of iGaming operators. And we could put these into two different buckets. You have Bitcoin casinos that are operating where the currency is being deposited in Bitcoin and withdrawn in Bitcoin. But even with an existing casino where you don't care about Bitcoin in the way that Erik stated, whether you believe in it or not, you can have all of the benefits that I've just described without any of those risks. Because when that player comes to make a deposit of 100 euros or 100 pounds, they can make that deposit using Bitcoin, and you, the iGaming operator, receive those pounds and euros at that exact same time. Because the companies that are providing those payment systems today are responsible for taking all that risk off, offloading all of that risk. They're responsible for the volatility. And at such times that customer wants that back, that money can also be remitted in the same way. So I think this is going to be a very exciting space for the Bitcoin ecosystem, and where I think we're going to see early adoption. As most of us know, emerging technologies often find their early significant success in this sector. I don't know how many of you know this, but the year that PayPal went public, the day of their IPO, 70% of their business was adult and gaming. So this is clearly an area where I think we're going to see very significant adoption. And I mean, if I were an iGaming operator today, this would be my preferred method of payment. I would be encouraging my users to make deposits in Bitcoin. I'd perhaps be giving them bonuses for making those deposits in Bitcoin. I don't know how many of you are in the CFOs or in the accounting divisions of your business or in the payment processing side, but substantially lower fees, no longer having to have costs associated with fraud and chargebacks. I mean, this is going to enhance your margins, which will give you more marketing dollars to put to work. I would be encouraging as much of that business as I possibly could to be deposited through Bitcoin. It's the best thing you can do for your company.
Exactly, I think it's great as a first round. So, apart from the regulatory aspects, because we had a session with David before, so Esteban, VAT. How do you see indirect tax as a component of all this, of to the business success, or not?
Yeah, indirect taxes, in my opinion, it can make or break Bitcoin. It's the game changer. I always say in the iGaming area that VAT is a game changer. That's not only within Bitcoin, but also if you just only accept fiat money. But yeah, I heard different sounds with respect to VAT. I heard that, for example, Singapore has their own GST system in which they charge GST within Singapore as soon as services are outside Singapore. No GST is charged.
Let's just go into the jurisdictions. Erik, you spoke clearly about Asia. David mentioned Brazil before. So, Jiten, maybe with your Asian experience, do you see other jurisdictions where maybe John, so we saw the Netherlands on the map, so the Netherlands definitely will not embrace Bitcoin for iGaming, but do you see opportunities? Do you see jurisdictions where something is happening?
Look, unfortunately, I'm not the best position to answer that question, but as Brock said, like, you can buy Bitcoin virtually anywhere in the world, and you can transact in Bitcoin virtually anywhere in the world. So in places particularly with currency controls, or in places where your primary challenge in gaming is processing of payments, then Bitcoin is a huge opportunity for you. You know, in places like China, for example, in terms of specific jurisdictions, I'm going to pass on that question because it's probably someone better positioned to answer it.
Esteban, or maybe Brock, you from an investment perspective, maybe you've seen some investments going to specific jurisdictions that you can share with us. Erik, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've done business, more or less all over the world. I do $1 billion a year in virtual currency business just in South Korea. I've got nearly, I have a third or more of the population of Koreans utilizing one of my businesses. I've done business in China for ages and ages, Southeast Asia, Latin America. Certainly in the Latin markets, I think, there's a very interesting opportunity. Africa seems to be one of the more popular jurisdictions for iGaming right now. It's kind of the last frontier. Africa is probably, as a region, from an infrastructure perspective, the least mature. I think of, kind of Bitcoin is where the internet was in like 1991. And in the same way that Africa, from an infrastructure perspective, leapfrogged wired telecommunications in favor of wireless or mobile, I think that Bitcoin has the potential to become the primary way that people store their value or bank, because the banking infrastructure isn't there in a way that a huge percentage of the population is unbanked. In countries like Kenya today, a third of the population have Bitcoin wallets, thanks to earlier technologies like M-Pesa that paved the way for it, at least in terms of the people being aware of it. I think it could very well be the primary payment system. In some countries it could become the primary currency. So, Africa is, I think, an interesting region as, iGaming operators and gaming operators are looking at kind of breaking into the final frontier.
Yeah, just one point from a jurisdictional perspective, and Brock brought this up earlier. In terms of certain jurisdictions just being favorable, if you just think in terms of just pure size, if you have to convince 10 regulators instead of 1,000 regulators that Bitcoin's a good idea, it's probably easier to convince the room of 10. So from our own perspective, I'm just seeing smaller jurisdictions that have been particularly messed around with, due to the conventional normal banking system. They're tiny. You're talking about countries maybe with 50,000, 100,000 citizens. A regulatory body that consists of a couple of people sitting around a table. And if you can convince them quickly and easily, I think that's where the jurisdictional advantage that we brought up earlier is going to be a monster play. So, I do agree that Africa and these types of continents are huge and they desperately need it, and they're ripe for it. But obviously Kenya is much larger than, say, a country with 50,000 people in it.
Maybe I want to add, I started embracing Bitcoin because of poker. I want to play against US players, and that was possible on the Bitcoin-only poker website. So yeah, thanks for that. But yeah, with respect to the possibilities, I totally agree that Africa is maybe one of the biggest target countries, continents, because of also mobile. Mobile is booming there. Africa just left normal PCs and laptops. They just directly went to mobile. And if you have Bitcoin, you can put a mobile wallet on your telephone, and if you also have a payment process there, you can then actually pay in Bitcoin. So it can get more mainstream there. People can then actually use it on cross-platforms, being that they can play with it, they can pay with it, and they can do whatever with it. So
I want to make sure that we don't overemphasize the regulatory issue. People talk about regulations in Bitcoin a lot, but I think it's really important for companies that are interested in accepting Bitcoin to realize that they don't necessarily the acceptance of it doesn't necessarily come with any new regulations or any issues whatsoever. To the extent that you're just receiving Bitcoin through a merchant processor who takes the Bitcoin and pays you dollars or euros, you're just getting dollars or euros just like you get from Visa or from PayPal. And you do the same KYC on the customer. You do the same accounting on your own books. Nothing changes. It's just that you have one more avenue to get money in, and it's free, 0 chargebacks from any country in the world, and no necessary regulation burden upon that.
Right. That's the low-hanging fruit I think we were referring to earlier.
Clearly, Ivan, is there something that you see from your perspective? I mean, you have a booth here. So
I can share some experience from our company. So about the investments, where the people invest in Bitcoin and Bitcoin gaming, and we get a lot of requests every day from all over the world. From I can say, for example, we get the request from Republic of Vanuatu, somewhere. Vanuatu, right? they have a legislation there, and even there people want to start Bitcoin casino. So I mean, it's huge demand and huge interest, and people want to invest in this business. So it says for me that this not borders. I mean, no borders. So everywhere, people thinking about it.
Well, I mean, as an investor, I think I've made 3 investments in the last week. This is the most exciting sector, to be investing in today. I mean, as an investor, you're ultimately looking at big market opportunities. This is the biggest market opportunity since the internet.
Right. I think that answers pretty much that question about the jurisdictions. Going back to the games, we spoke about it a little bit before. So the development of new games, provably fair, SatoshiDICE. A few months ago, I told to David, yeah, maybe this is a niche, or is this not a niche? So what is your experience in it? It's something not visible to me, and I guess also not to a lot of people. How do you see new things developing?
So in my point of view, SatoshiDICE was a very good example how to gamble in a different way, in the right way, in a probably fair way. And for example, for us, we developed based on this platform, probably fair platform, another probably fair technology that could be used for the classic games like slots, roulettes, table games, and every player can check the fairity of the bet of each bet, and it's even more easy as in SatoshiDICE. I mean, SatoshiDICE can, for example, play only the Bitcoin experienced person, yeah, right? So can prove it. I mean,
is it niche or is mainstream? I mean, you're a
it's mainstream. It's mainstream. So, for example, I can share a little bit information about negotiation with the big games developers, famous game developers, not only in online but also in offline business. So they are already thinking about games, playing games with Bitcoins, and they are already talking to us. And actually, I think it's 2, 3, 4 months, and a lot of big operators coming into this business.
Jiten, what's your opinion with the microphone? Niche or mainstream?
I actually am going to play the role of our Alderney regulator earlier and kind of disagree with what we just said. I think that the concept of provably fair is to me mostly unrelated to Bitcoin. Right? It came about because in online casinos you need accountability of some kind. Now the bulk of the operators in this room and at this conference are regulated somewhere in the world, so they have that oversight. The quality of that oversight varies from jurisdiction, but there is oversight nevertheless. And in Bitcoin casino world, especially in the early days, there was no regulation at all. So you needed some sort of mechanism to allow the user to experience some sort of comfort, and therefore the concept of provably fair was born. So provably fair, as was discussed by Erik earlier, becoming a phenomenon in the regulated online casino world, I don't necessarily see that happening because there is this oversight. If it's by a regulator, if it's a real problem for the end user, then it will happen naturally. In terms of actual gaming products, I think that so far, what's happening in the Bitcoin space by guys like Erik and other pioneers in that space is they're effectively very intelligent, talented engineers that have built these products around an extremely complex virtual currency system. And the games are much better understood by the existing operators, right? The actual products that people like and respond to, the slot machines that they like, the branded slots, the fact that the idiosyncrasies and superstitions in certain cultures, like in China, they want to see a live dealer. These kind of things are not yet understood by the Bitcoin gambling world, but they are by the traditional online gambling world. So I see that sharing of products happening. I'll allow you a rebuttal in a moment. Yeah, but I see the existing gaming operators as having a much more comprehensive understanding of these products than the early operators in the gaming industry. So I see it going the other way around. In terms of real gaming innovation in the Bitcoin side, I don't think that I'll be driving product in the immediate term. I still think the game publishers ultimately rule the roost.
Thank you. Somebody like to have a last word about the business opportunity?
I guess it will be a lot of questions because the theme is very interesting. I mean, we
I'll
can
give one quick last word. The online casino industry has fought with payments since it was created. There have been dozens of payment systems built up just to try to deal with this issue of fraud, jurisdictions, of risk, of chargebacks, all these things. This has been solved. Bitcoin solved it. And it's still a little new and it's still a little weird. But I think anyone running a casino needs to really educate themselves on this system because it is how business on the internet will be done, and it is how business in the casino world will probably be done even before that.
I don't even think you need to do the research today. There's no reason not to embrace it. None. You can think this is tulip bulbs, you can think this is Ponzi scheme. As an iGaming operator, as long as your regulator would permit it, you should be taking it as a form of payment. There is a ton of upside and zero downside if you're working with a payment platform that mitigates all those risks. There's no reason not to.
I think it's a very clear last statement.